Are you ready to dream on? Do you know how to fly high and soar among the clouds? Get ready to live adventurously because the Laura Meeks Show starts now. Listen as Laura lifts you off the ground while teaching you how to fly high. Forget ground level drama and be prepared to confront your dreams head on as she encourages you to navigate towards your North Star and into what just might be the best life you've imagined. Dream on, live adventurously on the Laura Meeks Show.
This is Laura Meeks, and I welcome you to the Laura Meeks Show. Our motto is fly high and live adventurously, and I'm so excited to bring this show to you today. There's a lot of things that we have talked about over the last couple shows, and today's title of the show is The Need for Speed. And the essence of it is this. In Fly High Living, part of what we are talking about is working on your flight plan for life and building a life and in the flying analogy to build a life that you're flying. Hey, Pat.
Pat's here. Hooray!
Hey. So we're just talking, Pat, we were just talking about building your flight plan and building a life that you would absolutely love. And in Fly High Living, we use flying analogies. And so in my analogy, a lot of what we are trying to talk about and trying to do is, first of all, we want to have a flight plan, a place to go, and then we're going to jump in our airplane, take off, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then we're going to get airborne. And the essence of today's talk is the need for speed. So we're part of what I want to do is I want to start the show with a little bit of a review of the things that we have to put it in context for where we're going to go today, because a lot of what we're talking about today is taking action. Once you're airborne, we gotta fly the airplane and go to our destination. There's a lot of things that happen, and the tools and techniques that we need to do that are things that we want to talk about today. But before we get too far, part of what I want to do is just do a brief recap of some of the shows that we've done so far, so that we can have this in perspective. So one of the first things that we talked about was building a flight plan, and I think the title of the show that we did was Life Happens. And kind of the essence of that was, and I like this, in flying lingo, when pilots are talking about the basics of flight, the most basic part of flight is called keeping the pointy end forward. So when you're flying an airplane, keep the pointy end forward. Stuff in life happens, and I think it's important to understand that we, in a spiritual sense, are spirits in a life suit. So kind of like astronauts go out to space in their spacesuit, we are here on Earth in our Earth suit, and we are doing the things that we came here to do. And I think that's important, because the whole point of Fly High Living is to find joy and happiness in our life and enjoy not only the destination, but to enjoy the journey that we're on. And so the first show that we did was Life Happens. The next thing that we talked about was needing a flight plan. I'm not going to go into a lot of this right now, because there's a little piece of the show later where we're going to talk in specific about Flight Plan for Life, which is a chance for you, the audience member and our listener, to actually engage in building the flight plan for life. But the essence of that whole show is that you can't go from A to B if you don't know where B is, right?
Right.
So we needed a flight plan, and it's a very crucial beginning. So after we have a flight plan, then we're going to take our airplane out of the hangar, we're going to jump in it, and we're going to go. And the next show that we did had to do with decision making. And one of the things that I absolutely love, and I think this is a great analogy, is that in flying, when you get to the end of the runway, we decide to take off. Now, to quote Yoda, there is no try. There is do and do not. And in flying, when you take it off, we don't just like put a little power and see how it goes. because there's only so much runway. So when we in flying make a decision, we get to the end of the runway and we use everything we got. In our terminology, we call that military power. That's the most power that those jet engines can handle for takeoff. And I don't care if we have 2 miles or 2,000 feet, we are using the most power that we can to make our life go forward. And that's an important piece. And we did a whole show on decision making. And then the next thing that we need to know is that once we're committed, that and another flying terminology, we call this when we cross over the ocean, when you leave the coast, the dirt's behind you. We call that getting your feet wet. So once you get over the ocean, your feet are wet, and now we're committed to going all the way across the ocean. And it's important that once you're on that journey, and this is kind of where we're going to start the show today, is now that we're airborne and we're committed, our feet are wet, and we're going forward on the journey. What are the tools and the techniques and the things that we need to take action? Because you can't just sit back and wait for stuff to happen. I mean, I hate to say it, most people do that. And in the analogy of taking off, I think there are a lot of people that have already tried a few things, and I like that try. They've already run off the end of the runway, hit the fence, went over the dirt, and now they're back again. And one of the things that I think is beautiful about life is every day that we wake up is a new chance. Mm-hmm. We call it a baby day. Every new day is a new baby day, and we get to start it over. And just like life has a beginning and end, every day has a beginning and an end. And so, if you have tried to take off and you ran off the end of the runway, hey, oh well. So we all do that. I mean, everybody has tried to do some things and it hasn't worked out. So that the essence of what I want to pass on today is that you can go back and review those shows if you need to. They're on flyhighliving.com, and you can go to the media tab and you can review all of the other stuff. But today we're specifically now going to talk about the things that we need to do to take action in our life. And part of that is, so kind of as a preview of where we're going to go, to take action, we need ideas. So we need to get some really good ideas. We're going to talk about building and working with questions, because questions are very important. How you ask the universe for information is very critical, because if you ask a bad question, you get a bad answer. If you ask a good question, you get a good answer. So we want to take a look at that, because ideas really are the currency of the universe. And so very, very important, I think, for us to take a look at what the master plan is, to build a flight plan, get in the plane, gas it up, and go, and then find the destination. Now, one last little thing about the destination. If you're good, and when I go through my Flight Plan for Life vision building course, one of the things that I bring up is that the goals and the things that we are looking for need to be inspirational. Many people are going to work every day and grinding it out, and it's not inspirational. And one of the things that I just absolutely love is that the more and more people that I talk to and get involved with, and that are working towards something, as we shift out of that kind of what I would call the swamp of sadness, or the low part of life, and we get past what Abraham Maslow called survival. Once you hop over that survival need barrier, then the whole world is open to you. And it's just so exciting to see people aiming at something that's way out there. And I think the more people, Pat, like you and others that we talk to that are really doing a great job in teaching personal development, have goals that are in essence unattainable. And there's a reason for that, because those goals become incredibly inspirational, and it's the journey and as a pilot, I have to tell you, I went flying recently in a glider, and I hadn't shared this with you, Pat, but one of the things that I found just incredible, it was not going to be a good flying day. The clouds were coming over the mountains, and there weren't going to be a lot of thermals, we thought. And there weren't thermals, but it turns out that as we moved towards these clouds and this cloud layer, we ended up above it, and being on top of the clouds is part of the journey of flying. And we ended up finding this little road of lift. There's a little wave lift. So as air comes over a mountain, it lifts up. And we were just able to ride along that little highway of life, slowly getting higher and higher. And that journey was so incredible. Just being in the plane and being there was incredible. Whether we were actually achieving, reaching our destination, I think one of the important pieces of living a life that you absolutely love is picking a destination that's inspirational, and then enjoying the journey as you're going along. I think that just is part of it. And so what we're going to talk about today is how to craft up those ideas and how we can implement those ideas. Because again, without ideas, without action, just entertainment.
Yeah. And, part of this too is, the show today, when we're thinking about the Laura Meeks Show, Dream On, Fly High, Live Adventurously, what this particular episode is about is something that gnaws away. It gnaws away. It's like a dog that gets a little tasty bone and just gnaws away ever so persistently at that bone. And yet at the same time, you have to wonder in your life, if you're gnawing away at your dream, at your vision, but you are not taking action, then you are not tapping into today's episode title, I feel the need for speed. Because any of you that work in this arena, or any of you that have a dream, or if you work with other people that have a dream, the one thing that we all know is that patience is not always the best bedfellow of persistence. And that's what today's show is about. It's about how do you hold on the need for speed and make sure you've gone through, you're checking the rudders, you're checking the wheels, you're checking, and you don't abort your dream because you forgot something on your flight plan for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's often, there is a delicate balance. And I think one of the fun things about sharing this information and the things that have happened in life, it is very easy to get caught up. Robert Heinlein made a statement that it's very easy to get trapped by the trivialities of life until that's all you're doing. And yes, it's important to check our tires and check our oil and check the flight controls, but you don't want to spend your whole day in the hangar. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we got this stuff. That's important, and that's all part of flight planning your life, is figuring out where it is and where you're going to go. But then there's the time where you got to jump in the airplane and get out to the runway. And even if it's windy and cloudy and all this, is that's part of the incredible adventure that we're on. Is that we basically know we got the airplane, we got the flight plan, we know kind of where we want to go. And now it's time to get out there and put the power to it, because otherwise you're just going to hang out in the hangar and wonder why we never got to the next destination. It's well, part of it is that the airplane's sitting over there. We actually never got into it. We were so worried about all the parts and the pieces that we never actually got into it. So
let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a short break, because when we come back, what Laura's put together beyond the flight plan for life, what Laura's put together is, first of all, a very, very fun way to look at and acting your vision, your dream, and taking action. You know, a lot of people talk about, I got to give you the homework. I got to do this. I got to do that. Laura's like, hello, fly high, live adventurously.
Let's jump in.
Are you ready for takeoff? And today we are all feeling the need for speed. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to look at, wait a minute. What? Plan? How long? I mean, do I have to take a year for a plan? Do I have to take a day? And guess what? Laura's going to tell you this is not a one size fits all, but it is a size that you want to try on. Let's take a short break.
Definitely want to try it on. I have to say the producers know how to find the right song.
I know. That's our Benny.
Well, I can't wait for number 2. You know, they're making number 2 right now.
They are making number 2. They really are.
Yeah, Top Gun number 2 is in production right now.
It is, and Thomas going to be a colonel.
Right, but Val Kilmer's in it too now, I hear.
Yeah.
That's also true. They were able to get him back. So I'll be interested to see. That was one of my absolute favorite movies. We use those references in our show all the time.
I wonder why, Laura. I mean, my God, flying is not only your passion, but metaphorically, it's
metaphorically. Well, and the show, honestly, Top Gun as a show is a whole metaphor for
it is
all kinds of stuff.
So, listen, how can people find out about you, but also how can they find out about Flight Plan for Life? And then you've got something incredible to give away, Benny. So we'll open up the phone line in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. By far and away, the thing I want to encourage you to do is to go to my website, flyhighliving.com. That has a wealth of information, but most importantly, the very first thing that you're going to see is your chance to build your flight plan for life. And Flight Plan for Life in the short version, that's 4 personal hours with me, just me and you on the phone, building a vision of what your life is going to be like in the next 2 to 3 years. And through that process, you're going to end up with the critical piece that you need for takeoff. And that is, where are you going? And it's typically about a $300 program. And we are going to give it away today to the first caller, Pat.
Let's do it.
All right. So tell me how.
1-800-930-2819. 1-800-930-2819. So let's do that. Mr. Benny is on it. Everybody say hi to Benny, and we'll take it off from there.
Okay, super. Well, and again, I encourage. I've had a number of people. We've given it away on my show before, and the people that have done it have just been raving. It is really a great program, and it's a very doable piece. And also a great giveaway for Christmas is coming up. So if you want to give an experience rather than just a physical gift, this is another good way to do it. But with that in line, I encourage you to call Benny. I want to move ahead and talk about taking action. Now, I had to look this guy up. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe is a German guy. He says, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. So that's kind of a take on what Yoda said. Napoleon Hill said, don't wait, the time will never be right. And Laura says, source energy has a limitless supply of abundance, air refuel with that energy. That's a modern flying quote. All of that to say that once you get airborne in your flight plan for life. So imagine that part of the beauty of the flight plan for life is that you're talking about a balanced life. So very often in personal development, and I've seen some incredible people doing incredible work, but often it's very much focused just on, how to reach your business goals and how to get the money, get the car, get the whatever thing that you think that you want to have. Flight Plan for Life is slightly different in the fact that we're going to talk about your health goals, your relationship goals, your vocation goals, which are important, but also what I would call kind of your vacation goals, your time and money. If you had unlimited time and money, what would you do? Would you give money away? Would you take on a project? Would you go to Africa? Would you help the homeless? Whatever those things are, because I really truly honestly believe that every one of us has a gift to bring to this world. And so part of that is to try to figure out what is that gift, and then how are we going to take action to do that. Now, one of the first things that I want to tell you is that the universe is an incredibly abundant universe. It's that very often we are taught, I think, as children, that the world is like a pie. There's only so much pie. And if I give my slice to you, I won't have my piece of the pie. What I want to tell you is that the universe has unlimited pies, and they can make that pie as big as you can ever imagine that pie. But one of the tricks is that you have to get good at asking for what you want. And I call that calibrating your questions. So when you're going to start to take some action, the very first thing you're going to do is probably ask questions that you're used to asking, which are typically low energy questions. So in the land of vibrations and being a vibrational being, there's energy down here at 88.5 FM, and then you want to bring, if you want to go to 107.9 FM, you got to raise your frequency and get up there. So when I'm talking about asking particular questions, and I'll bring in Einstein. I love Einstein's quote, because what Einstein says, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, so this is a life or death deal, he said, I would spend the first 55 minutes crafting up my question, because when you have the right question, you can answer it in 5 minutes. So it's important, the question that you ask. Now, to put that into perspective, very often I'm in a client-based business, and depending on if you're in a sales-based business or if we're just talking about vocation and creating business, very often the question is, how can I get more clients? I need more clients. I need more money. How do I get that? That's a 88.5 level question. That's a low vibration question. The higher vibration question would be, how can I serve more people? How can I help you achieve your results? Because if I can help you, then the abundance will come back. So it's a difference if you can see that. Another example, if you're worried about paying your bills, you might say, how can I make it through the month and pay all my bills? That I don't know anybody who has not ever asked that question if you're over about 15 years old. A higher vibration question would be, how can I make an extra $1,000 a month? An even higher vibration question would be, how could I take a 2-week vacation and make $10,000? Now, I love that particular question only because my friend and mentor, Mary Morrissey, asked that question one time. That was kind of the question she had in her mind. How can I take a vacation and go to Europe and make $10,000? And it wasn't until she was on a cruise ship pulling into Nice that she realized, I did it. I wasn't even thinking about it, but she had been contracted to teach on this cruise ship, and she was getting $10,000. And as the cruise ship is pulling into Nice, she said, wait a second. I mean, I've done it. So part of that is your ability to craft up a higher level question, and then to keep that question on your mind. If you're losing weight, how can I lose 10 pounds would be everybody's question. I need to lose 10 pounds. It would be a higher vibration question if you were to ask, how can I lead a healthier life and wake up full of energy? Losing 10 pounds, that's part of the way that you can have a healthier life. but if you're asking a more calibrated question, then that is a much better start. And so one of the things that I find is that as you're looking at your flight plan, and maybe your flight plan, maybe you're having a challenge walking. It's a health issue as you get older. Maybe you have a replaced hip or knee, and you're trying to figure out how you can walk further, then the question is then how can I lead a life where walking in my hip is not an issue? Not necessarily how can I walk 300 yards. That's a good short-term, hey, I need to get there. That's like 10 reps, 20 reps, 30 reps. But in the end, what you're really looking for, and I think what all of us are looking for, is the ability to find joy and happiness and bring our gift to the world. And so you want to keep your questions at that highest level. Does that make sense, Pat?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think what you're doing is you're trying to really talk about what the basics of a blueprint are. If you really have a need for speed, then you certainly don't want to go through trial and error on how to figure this out. So what you're talking about is at the real essence of our consciousness of any idea, right? Because an idea starts with a thought. And so, if the thought comes in, whether it be in the form of a fact, an opinion, or a question, if it comes in and it comes in very, let's just call it narrow and scarce of a frequency, then that's basically what you're saying you want more of.
Right. And we all know the thoughts create things. What you think about is what you bring about. What you say is what you play. There's 1,000 ways to say this. I love that. But it has to do with your thinking. And so that one piece, I just want to encourage you to think about the kind of questions that you're asking, and then see if you can craft up a higher level thing. Now, one of the next things that pilots do is we do hangar flying, which is the pilots get together with a beer and they sit around the hangar and we talk about the mission that's coming up and what might go right and what might go wrong and how we might make it better. In normal business language, so when Annie and I had our consulting company, we would call this brainstorming. And remember, ideas are the currency of life. The thing that we're trying to do is to get the speed of our airplane faster. So the reason that we want to calibrate our question is because better questions get you there faster. That's why we have the need for speed. So we want to calibrate the questions so we can get better answers and take better action with a calibrated question. Now, in the land of brainstorming, now a lot of people have done a lot of brainstorming, and I'm going to tell you this right off the bat. I think most people are absolutely horrible at brainstorming. It is definitely a skill, but the challenge that we have often in life is that we have our paradigms that we've learned in school, and now we've got this new idea of brainstorming. And part of the challenge that I think that people have is the challenge between the creative mind and the rational mind. Now, all of us know that flighty creative girl that's out there doing all kinds of crazy stuff and doesn't seem so rational, but is very creative. On the other side, you may have, in my mind, I have an idea of a banker, an accountant sitting there calculating stuff out and doing things from the rational world. I want to tell you that in the land of brainstorming, it's critical to get rid of your rational brain. So what we want to do is we want to craft up a huge volume of ideas. Now, if it's just you sitting down, then here's my thought. Take a normal piece of paper, a line, find I use legal pads all the time, even if they're the normal short legal pad. There's 25 lines on either side, so that's 50 lines for one piece of paper. Challenge yourself and give yourself a 15-minute time limit and fill both sides with ideas. Because really what happens is this, is that if I said, hey, if the question was this, how can I make $1,000 a month? The very first thing that's going to come out of each one of our brains is I could go to work at Walmart, or I could go to work at Burger King. Could that work? Yes, but see, those are what comes out, and I like this analogy. Pat, did you ever go out in the country? You had the water pump for the well. The first 5 or 6 pumps, the dirty brown water comes out. that's what's happening when you're brainstorming is the first ideas are the ideas that always come out. They're the dirty brown ideas that, yeah, that's the rational world. I could do this. I could get a job for that, thing. Now what happens is once you get that dirty water out, then the clear water starts to flow. And now you're creating ideas that are additive and creative. And a lot of that, we're going to talk in the last section about intuition, but a lot of that is connecting your brain, disconnecting from this physical body and going out into the spirit world and getting the real ideas, because the real ideas live in the spiritual world and you have access to them, but you got to get the dirty brown water out. You got to get that first, when you put the power, the oil and all the other crap comes out of the engine, and then we're off and running. So in the land of brainstorming, that's important. The other thing that I will say is that working with a partner or a group of people, if they're practice, or you can kind of practice doing this, can be hugely additive, because then what happens is Pat, you say something that cues me. You say, hey, I could sell my car. And I think, oh man, I could turn my car into an Uber. Oh, that's it. I could make money doing that. So what happens is ideas tag on ideas. Even the craziest ideas, as somebody says, oh, we could, buy an elephant, you're thinking, oh man, buy an elephant, that's stupid. But that might cue you to the zoo, which cues you to something else, which all of a sudden comes up with a great idea. All of that to say that is that when you're taking a look at your flight plan for life, and you have these health goals, and you have a goal to find a soulmate, then part of that is calibrating the question, not how do I find a soulmate, but how do I become the best person to attract a soulmate? And then how am I going to do that? Well, and then comes the ideas, the brainstorming. Hey, I could, cut my hair. I could get different makeup. I could, there's all those things that come together. Now, the ending, I think, of that whole piece is then to take those ideas and select the best ones. So let's go back to that piece of paper. You have 50 ideas, everything from working at Walmart to driving an Uber to, playing the lotto. I could, that's another great idea. You could play the lotto and win $1,000 today. Now, all of that has to be balanced as to what are the best choices for you. Now, this is a part that only you can do. So I'm going to tell you how I like to do it. And that is to sort it by what I would call electricity. So if you were going to look down that list, dissolve yourself away, get away from that rational accountant mind, and just read each one of those and close your eyes and ask yourself, is there any energy in that? Is there any electricity? Does that excite me? Some of the weirdest ideas are going to excite you. Those are the ones that you want to go after, not necessarily the most rational. Everybody's going to tell you, hey, if you want to make some money, just forget about, starting a business. You need to just get a job. Well, common hour thinking creates common hour life. And we want to fly high, right? That's what we're trying to do. So what we want to do is find the ones, the 2 or 3. So you look at that list of 50, find the 2 or 3 that have that electricity, because it's that electricity that's going to give you the power at the end of the runway. When you want to take off towards your dream, it is those few ideas that you're going to say, I can do that. Hey, wait a sec. That's a great idea. I could do that. If I could get out to the end of the runway and do that, bam, I'm on the way. I know where. I know who I need to be and where I need to go to find the love of my life. Now I know how to fix my health challenge and climb Mount Everest or Shasta if you're in California. All of those things are the things that are going to get you there, to give you the power. That's what I want you to understand about taking ideas off of that. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think part of this too is what you're talking about is, how far do we want to go? I mean, one of the things I learned in my life because of what I did in sports is I had to decide, was I playing not to lose or was I actually playing to win? And those are very different energies.
Those are very
different energies.
And that's actually a great example of calibrating the question. Because the question is, am I playing to win or am I playing not to lose?
Right.
Totally different results come from those two different questions.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, Laura, first of all, I want to find out again, one more time. Tell people what you're giving away. I'm not sure if I heard whether we had a winner or not, but go ahead and do it.
Okay. So what we're giving away is the chance for you to go through my Flight Plan for Life course. Now, typically you would go to flyhighliving.com and sign up for this. I'm going to give one of these away. So what that entails is that's 4 hours, 1 hour a week, for 4 weeks. So we get on the phone or on the Skype and we work together, collaborating to build a flight plan for you. This is you. This is me coaching, mentoring, and pulling some of these ideas out of the back of your brain so that you actually have a written at the end of it. You're going to have a written flight plan for life, and we're actually going to record you saying your flight plan for life. And so you're going to have an audio version that you can put on your phone and you can carry with you, because it is that you need to have it with you. Again, you can't just build this flight plan for life and set it in the hangar. You've got to carry it with you and read it and do it. So I want to make sure that you have a written copy of it and an audio copy so that you know, one of the things I don't know about you, Pat, but I do drive to a number of places, and while I'm driving, rather than wasting that particular time, then that is where I have this on my phone and I can play it through my Bluetooth into my car speakers. And there I am, excited about the things that I'm doing. And by doing that, the value of that is that once it's in your head, you become aware. And as you're driving down the road, you look up and you see the billboard that says, hey, if you want a soulmate, call 1-800-SOULMATE. And you go, see, I found that was what I was looking for. That's the value. So yeah, a 4-week course, 1 hour each week, personally with me. That's what we're giving away.
I love it. 1-800-930-2819. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Laura about what does this mean to have the need for speed? Is it something that energizes you or does it stress you out? And then the question is, how do you stay in the flow? How do you literally ride on the wings of wind? Let's take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back. Okay, I'm getting fired up now.
Yeah, well, and again, thanks for the Top Gun stuff. Yeah. That really puts me in the mood.
It's one of my favorites, and actually, I met Kenny Loggins a few years ago. He was stopping by the studios.
Awesome!
Yeah, that's awesome.
Pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool guy.
Yeah, well, and I've met a lot of people that have met him. I haven't met him.
Well, I had another one.
Bucket list, and put that on my bucket list.
Put that on a bucket list.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Benny, who's doing the music for Top Gun 2? We don't know yet.
I'm not quite sure. I can into that.
Yeah, search that out. We haven't figured that one. Just to see if Kenny Loggins is coming back to do.
Man, I bet that's a master secret about that whole thing.
Well, and you got to figure they've got to tie in the old movie to the new movie. It's been like 25 years, so there's got to be some kind of lead in from the old music to the new music so that we can carry people forward. But speaking of carrying people forward and moving on, we're talking to the part of the reason that the Top Gun is so great is because we're talking about the need for speed. And the need in this essence is in your flight plan for life. We're going to build a flight plan, and obviously somebody out there is going to win a chance to build their flight plan for life today. And then once you have your flight plan, that's kind of the destination. That's where we're going to go. And so now what we're talking about is taking action. And part of that, we talked about calibrating the question, getting a good question. Einstein said he'd wait 55 minutes to get the best question so he could solve it in 60 minutes. He'd use 5 minutes to solve it. Once you get a good question. And, Pat, you had mentioned the fact that, whether there's a huge difference between am I playing not to lose or playing to win? That's, a great calibrated question. And then the next thing we talked about was going into brainstorming and building a pool of great ideas. And so this last piece that I want to talk about is that I want to tie you, the listener, into the universal source energy, what I would call universal source energy, whether you call that God, Allah, spirit. For the longest time, I called it the joyful one, because somebody said, well, think of a name. I thought, I always think of it as the joyful one. So if you want to tie into that joyful energy, we have been given in this astronaut suit for life, this earth suit that we've been given 5 earthly senses. So and believe it or not, this came up recently, is every one of our senses, we are a vibrational being in a vibrational world. And that the 5 senses that we have, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, all are vibrational sensors. That's all they do. There's a very specific vibration that each one of those 5 senses hears. But what most people don't know is those are the senses that we kind of interact with the rational, what we would call the real world.
Yeah.
But we also have 6 mental faculties, and those are faculties, and I will bring those the other 6 into being on another show. But the one that I want to talk to about today is when we were talking about taking a look at the source, at the list of things that we had, and seeing if there was an energy or vibration to that particular idea, and then grabbing onto that idea and running with that, because the universe is telling you through your senses of energy, those are the ones that you want. Now, the reason that I bring that up is that very often the paradigms that we've learned in life are such that we discount intuition. It's like, yeah, intuition. But what about the reality of the situation? And I'm here to say, flip that around. If you want to have speed, if you have that need for speed, and you want to take off and get to your destination. And here's an important thing. Some people think, and this is easy to do when you're 18, think you have 70 years to get there, so why hurry? Some of us are a little older and are thinking, hey, time's running out, I need to worry. But reality is that you don't know how long you're here. So it is possible to take off on your way to your destination and never get there. So if you want to get there faster, just in case time is running out, then these are things that we want to add. So adding in the power of intuition. So let's talk about intuition for a second. Pat, when I say intuition, what is that? How do you experience an intuitive thought?
I don't experience it. It just happens. It's just there. See, the thing I've learned in my lifetime is it isn't for me about experience an intuitive thought. It's about being awake and aware enough to know that I'm having one and then to do something about it.
That's an advanced version. I think that's absolutely true.
But that's it, because, for me, what I remember are the times that I don't act on that intuitive hit. Those are the most painful times in my life.
Yes.
See, isn't that interesting? Right?
Yeah.
So
it is.
That means that when I'm like in the flow, right, of doing this, and I'm sitting here, whether it's petting the little doggy here or whether it's doing a radio show, is that my life is smooth. And we're at a frequency that is unprecedented, almost to the point of it's unnoticeable. See, that's what I love about my life. I know I'm on track when my life is unnoticeable. If I got like a drama or like a family thing or like something like this going on, then that is just not living in that intuitive zone.
Yeah, that's when you've dipped down to 88.5 frequency. FM 88.5 is. That is it.
Well, and when you're flying, Laura, I mean, the bottom line for you flying is you don't have a lot of time. See, I play a sport very intuitively. It's the fastest racket sport on the planet. Yeah. You ride you're the pilot of fast planes.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Oh, wait a minute. Altitude is dropping. Oh, now let me think. Option 1 might be to do this.
Let's brainstorm for a little while, see how that goes. It's a crash. Oops, landed. Yeah. Well, and that is important. And now I think at the lower levels, if you're not used to having that high vibration, and by far and away, Pat, that what you're talking about is the goal. As we're flying, we want to be flying at that high frequency where life is flowing along, where the speed is high. That, clouds come and clouds go, cities come, cities go. We're getting to our destination. That's a lot different than being in an ultralight where you're traveling at 35 miles an hour and you're bumping around in the low level air. That's a long journey, and people can take that long journey. But if you really want to jump in the jet and fly high, then yeah, you need to take those intuitive hits and jump on them. Now, in parlance or other language, very often it's called the still small voice, the voice of truth. For me, it's a gut feel, it's a hunch, it's a nudge, it's a flash, it's a thing. I love this one. It's a thing out of the blue. There's the blue. There's a thing that came out of the blue. Those are all intuitive hits, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there's nothing worse than thinking, God, I wonder if I should turn left or right. I think I should turn right. I'll go left. And then you go down the road and you go, I knew I should have gone right. I mean, that's a simple thing. I mean, it happens much, whether it's a job, somebody that you're dating, whether it's something to do with your health, whether the doctor says, hey, you're going to do A or B, should you have the surgery or not? And you have a gut feeling, you have a mental image. It's called a breakthrough. Maybe you have some sort of intuitive action is going to come. And what I want to tell you is that those are the most powerful things that you can pay attention to move ahead with speed. So in this land, flight plan, build a flight plan, brainstorm a bunch of issues, ask the right questions, and then sit down. Now, I don't know how you do this, Pat. Very often I will meditate for 20 or 30 minutes. I used to spend an hour, but one of the things I'm finding is 20 minutes is a more powerful way to do it than 1 hour. Yeah. Because there's something about the difference. But very often it's important to get that intuitive hit unless you're very practiced. Unless you've done this a lot, it's going to be very hard for you to be aware. And Pat, I really like the idea that you're saying, the awareness of that, to be aware. So it's very important. Probably the last thing that I'll say as we wrap up the show is that one of the other things that I really like to do is keep a journal. Keep a journal by the bed. If you don't do this, keep a pad of paper or a journal by the bed with a pen and a light, so that in the middle of the night when the intuition hits, because your brain has said, hey, I'm letting this earthly world go, and ba-bam, here's an idea. Very often by the time you wake up in the morning, you go, God, I had this greatest idea last night. And I wish I could remember what that was. One of the things that Edison used to do is he used to go to what he called the land of solution. And to do that, he sat in a rocking chair, and he held a rock in his hand above a pail. And he would rock back and forth. And then if he fell asleep, the rock would hit the pail and he'd be jolted back. But he found in that little edge between sleep and awake is where you're finding some of your best intuitive thought. So all of that pulls you together and builds a life. That's all of that is going to build the speed that you need. And I feel the need.
And fly high living.
And fly
Laura
high.
Meeks, everybody. If you want to find out more about Laura, go to flyhighliving.com. Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
All right.
Because, I don't think there's anything worse than having a dream and feeling like you are absolutely
powerless.
Or going backwards.
Or going backwards.
Yeah, or going backwards.
The wind will blow you backwards.
Yeah, boy, I'm just saying. All right, everybody. Thanks, Laura. Have a great one, everybody.
All
We'll
right.
see you next
Fly
time.
high.
You've been listening to The Laura Meeks Show. Dream on, fly high, live adventurously on Transformation Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. And we hope you'll join us next month as Laura helps you find your unique gifts so you can bring them to the world. For more information on Laura Meeks or to listen to past shows, visit her website at flyhighliving.com. Check out her hit Dream On 12-week course, where you get the personal attention you need to fly high in your new life.